whether or not you win is inconsequential to, did you have fun playing this character? Did you have a good experience? And so that was always something that I tried to move my weather vane towards, or move my ship mast towards. I don't know, navigation metaphor. That's what I was trying to go towards.
Thank you so much for joining me today. I'm very excited to talk to you about Queen by Midnight because it looks like so much fun, but it's sold out at Gen Con every day in like what, 15 minutes? How did that feel?
Absolutely surreal. Not that I have all of the times memorized, but I do believe it was the first day was 49 minutes, and then each day afterwards it was like within 20 minutes, and then I think on the last day it was about 14 minutes. And I saw videos of like people running to get in line for it, which I again, like it feels extremely surreal to me because, given that this is my first game, like I just keep telling myself, like, this doesn't happen. This doesn't happen. So I'm doing my best to drink it in and enjoy it as best I can. Um, but it's just strange in a very, very good way.
I love that. And then can you tell me a little bit about the inspiration for Queen by Midnight? Because the characters are so cool and the gameplay is very, very intuitive. I love it.
Thank you. Yeah, I always ascribe to the idea that when you're making something, whether you are designing a game or writing a screenplay or, making a D&D game or, designing a pair of clothes, you should always be wanting to make something that you would want to purchase and participate with. And this game is, if I saw this game on the shelves, I would buy it so fast, because I grew up with a single mom and two older sisters, and so I like literally grew up looking up to women and female characters, and I literally my favorite Power Ranger growing up was the Pink Ranger, and I would go on these like long rants about why Kimberly was the best Power Ranger. And then that evolved into, of course, X-Men with Storm and Emma Frost and Jubilee and Buffy the Vampire Slayer. And I've always been like the biggest fan of strong, wonderful, powerful women because that was who I grew up with. And so I wanted to make a game that kind of exemplified the type of story that I wanted to see. And in the gaming space, there aren't a lot of really cool three-dimensional nuanced depictions of female characters, which, aggravates me. I can't imagine what it must feel like to be a woman in that space. So I just wanted to make something that, I would want to buy, and also something that, like, if my nieces saw it, they'd be like, oh, wow, like you can be a princess and you can also be a fighter. You can be a badass. That was really important to me, especially when you're kind of taking these princess fairy tales and folk tales that we all know, but figuring out a way to kind of reimagine them in a different way, because, at the end of the day, fairy tales are for everybody, and you should be able to reimagine them however you want. And so, what would a lot of these fairy tales look like in a fantasy matriarchal society versus a horrible patriarchal society that we lived in? So that was a roundabout way of saying that.
Can you talk to me a little bit about the development process with Darrington Press?
I made this game in 2019. That was when all of the really hard grunt work went into it. And it was after I got laid off from a company that rhymes with Schmishminima. And after that, I was, kind of aimless. And this game was, a really great way for me to focus my time and attention into something and really feel like I was building towards something when I felt rudderless. And so when I got this job at CR, I was like, okay, I'm producing now. So I'm just going to put this game that I've been working for, 10, 11 months on the back burner and just focus on this job. And basically when Darrington Press became a thing, I finally got Ivan to come around and take a look at it on Tabletop Simulator. A lot of it was basically done. And that was something that Ivan kind of remarked to me and made me feel pretty good, because he basically said, like, you've already done the hard part. And now they got to basically do the fun part, which was, finding artists for it and translating the mechanics into a graphic design pattern with Matt Paquette and Co. and balancing it and all that stuff. And I'm not like a numbers guy. I'm much more of like an intuitive sort of hippity dippity game designer. So having Alex Uboldi come on to really be able to break it down in terms of like, hey, I've taken the win conditions for every princess and put them into a mathematical formula, and such a character has a 5.5% chance of winning, while this character has this chance. So we need to balance this out. And basically everything that they brought to the table as far as a shift or a mechanical shift and whatnot, I was super on board for. Everything that they did was just a great way of cutting away the fluff and emphasizing what makes the game good. And I was just super happy to have seen those notes come in and to be like, yes. There was never a moment where like they came to me with a note and I was like, that is the stupidest idea I've ever heard. Don't you dare do that. It was a great process.
I love the characters, and I love, like you were saying, kind of it's taking these folklore and like fairy tales and just adjusting them to this new setting. Can you talk about the character creation process that you went through? Because like all of them are so interesting. Like when I was reading them, I'm like, okay, cool. I have to play this at least 6 times, so I want to play all of them.
To me, that was one of the most fun processes, was taking these princess archetypes that we are all familiar with, and first of all, diving into the source material of them, the original fairy tales that they came from, and kind of realizing like, okay, what made these interesting and why do these persist, and how can they be shifted in a way that feels fresh, but also retains kind of the same ideas behind them. And, a lot of them kind of ended up being bigger swings in different directions than others. But, I think like someone like Hephaestus, I think exemplifies the conceit of the game really well as a cipher for a Cinderella archetype, where, instead of a glass slipper, she has a suit of armor made out of glass and a giant glass hammer. Instead of going to a ball, she went to a fight. She went to like a battle. And, instead of banishing her wicked stepmother and stepsisters, she beat them in an honorable duel. And, I think that sort of twist on it exemplifies what I was trying to do with all of these princesses. To me, like that was the most fun. Like that's like the most like cool, like, I don't know, problem, not want to say problem, but like the coolest kind of riddle to crack and solve.
Can you talk to me a little bit about the play testing process and how that impacted the game design?
So when I was making this game in 2019, basically I would ask my very good friends who I would play D&D with to come over and play test this game that I've been working on. And I think it probably went through 3 somewhat different iterations of the game that you see now before you. Basically how it would go is I would bring my friends over who I was really, really close with and valued their opinion. And if they got real with me, I wouldn't be offended. And basically afterwards, when we were done with the game, I had little surveys. Which character did you play? Did you win? What were some mechanics that you liked? Which were some that you didn't like? And I still have those surveys in my little binder at home for this, my little commemorative binder. And basically I was just trying to go off of what felt the most fun and what gave them the best power fantasy in a way. And, whether or not you win is inconsequential to, did you have fun playing this character? Did you have a good experience? And so that was always something that I tried to move my weather vane towards, or move my ship mast towards. I don't know, navigation metaphor. That's what I was trying to go towards. And once I felt really confident in the mechanics and, basically once I did I think it was 10 play tests and the mechanics like basically didn't shift, that was when I knew that, okay, I feel a little bit more comfortable now. Maybe I can broaden the scope of who I'm asking to play test. And so that's when I started bringing in acquaintances that I knew through the LA Gaming Society, or LA, it's LAGS. It's a social group for LGBTQ people who like to play games. They do events at Akbar and stuff. And I brought in some of my friends and acquaintances from there. And then once I felt comfortable with acquaintances, I reached out to strangers who I met doing Friday Night Magic. And let me tell you, if you're approaching total strangers that you meet at Friday Night Magic to play a game, you must feel very confident in how your game plays, because they do not mince words and they will break your game as soon as humanly possible. So that was a bit of the playtesting experience. Yeah.
And then what has been the most surprising part of this whole process?
Honestly, the reception, I think, has been incredibly surprising. I knew that my game was good, and I knew that Darrington Press was going to do a great job with it. I wasn't expecting it to sell out like that at Gen Con. I wasn't expecting, so many of the stores, or Darrington Press Guild stores, to have been, putting on these wonderful events, promoting the game, and basically just the amount of excitement that people have been drumming up for it. I really wasn't expecting that. I was expecting it to do well. I was expecting like a, at worst, like maybe a C plus performance, maybe at best like a B plus. I wasn't expecting A performances. And so far it's been doing pretty good. So I'm really shocked in a good way.
Well earned.
Thank you.
Was there anything that you learned from working on Critical Role that helped you in kind of those final stages of the game development? I
think that a cornerstone of being a good producer is knowing how to set people up for success and then getting the F out of the way. And at CR, that's the name of the game in a lot of ways. And as producing in general, and especially when you're working with 8 incredibly talented people that have been in this space for a really long time and know what they're doing, you don't need to hold their hand. And at the same token, knowing how and when to collaborate with people, and sort of like embracing the joy that you get from divorcing your own ego from a project that feels very close to you. And realizing that, like, when you put that kind of trust in another person, when you're collaborating with them, you're only going to make what you care about even better. I think that having a toxic level of ownership over something can work to the detriment of a product. And I didn't want that for this. I'm not a monolith. I will never pretend to be one. And I'm so grateful that I got to work with some of the best folks to make this possible. So yeah, I think knowing how and when to collaborate, and knowing when a good idea that is contrary to what you brought to the table is good, that was one thing. And then obviously just knowing how to set people up and then just be like, all right, now it's in your hands. I'm going to go sit in Video Village and eat some Funyuns.
What has it been like to be a part of Critical Role as it's grown, to have other shows like Candela Obscura and then Darrington Press with these other games and everything?
Oh, it's tremendous. I mean, just seeing this company grow into all these different facets and putting out all of these brand new IPs. It's really tremendous to see, and I love being on the ground floor. And I also am like, oh man, being able to keep secrets in this company is you're just like, oh man, I just want people to see this cool thing that's like waiting in the wings forever. And then people finally get to see it. And it's just, that's a great feeling when you've been like anticipating the release of something that's been close to the chest for so long.
I do have to ask, because Sam's ads are insane. What is that it's like? Because I don't know how you guys are able to do that.
Sam's ads are legitimately one of the best parts of my job. So I did comedy for a really long time when I moved out here, and for one reason or another, I don't do stand-up anymore. But being able to do that kind of like really fun, hard, fast sketch vibe that I used to do, when I was at UCB or Second City. Like being able to revisit that is just a treat. And Sam is, I really do feel like we speak the same kind of like absurdist 90s Conan comedy language. So it's just a treat to get to collaborate with him on that stuff.
Well, thank you so much for taking the time to talk to me. The game is great. I'm so excited it's doing well. I'm so excited for everything else that CR is also putting out and Darrington Press is putting out, because I just love all of it. It's so fun.
Awesome. Well, I'm really glad. Thank you so much.